Good evening, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here with us. I am thrilled to be here, as I know all of you are because of our special guest. I will say for those who will be tuning into this episode that we're taping in beautiful Napa at the inaugural Napa Valley StreamFest. I think that more and more people should come and check this out as and will as word spreads. But the thing about our guest today is he's only 45, but he has been a major figure in American comedy on screens big and small for already 25 years. Over the course of the next hour, we are going to discuss in depth his journey to and through projects like Freaks and Geeks, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I Love You Man, The Muppets, The End of the Tour, and of course, Shrinking, the Apple TV Plus comedy series that he co-created and stars in, for which he received a Best Actor in a Comedy Series Emmy nomination last year, and may very well again this year, and for which, at the conclusion of our conversation, he will receive the Napa Valley StreamFest TV Performance of the Year award. And so, without further ado, would you please join me in welcoming to Napa and back to the Hollywood Reporter's Awards Chatter podcast, a full 10 years and 581 episodes since he was the guest on our third episode. I don't know if he remembers, but I do. Mr. Jason Segel.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. Hi. I just had a sumo dog, too, at the market. It was intense.
So let's go back, if we can, to the very beginning. Where were you born and raised, and what did your folks do for a living?
Wow. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, California, in the Palisades, which just burned down. My dad was a lawyer, and my mom raised us and was originally my dad's secretary.
Wow, all right. It was a different time.
Yeah. God bless it.
So the interesting thing is that comedy was almost inherent in your childhood, the way you've described your education and upbringing. Can you break it down for us? I don't know if you realized it while it was happening, but certainly in hindsight, you've commented on it.
Yeah, I didn't realize it while it was happening, but I think my mom, I am like a product of her influences, and I think it was very, very intentional. I was a little too young for The Muppet Show, and she taped every episode and showed those to me when I was old enough, and I remember really specifically watching Kermit the Frog and saying, I want to do that. And I do think that when you're young, Kermit the Frog is Tom Hanks, or Jimmy Stewart.
Yes.
It is a direct line. It's a type of acting which I consider to be the type of acting I do, which is like a surrogate. I am you. There's another type of acting which is aspirational, like when you watch James Bond, you don't think like, oh, that could be me. You think that guy's cooler than me or better than me. I want to be like Kermit the Frog and just be you.
The everyman.
Yeah. And maybe by me going through something on screen as honestly as possible, the audience will feel like they went through it. It'll give them some guidance if they're going through something similar. And then she also showed me Harold and Maude when I was like 10 years old. And that's when, Kermit has it too, but Harold and Maude has this tone, which I think became my internal tone, which is like magical melancholy.
Yeah.
Like right? There's wonder, wide-eyed, childlike wonder about the world, but also a little bit of sadness about it, that it'll inevitably end or that you can't quite touch it, And I think that that's sort of, it's really present in the stuff I write and the stuff I want to make. And I really do look at my mom now and think, oh, I besides literally like created me.
Yeah. And it's also when you say credit to your parents for shaping you. You didn't come out of the womb a outgoing, gregarious guy, and that may have led. That is sort of probably unintentionally what led to acting in the first place, right?
Yeah, I was always interested in, I was always like an artistic kind of kid, but I was very shy. I had not a lot of human friends, and my my parents enrolled me in the Santa Monica Playhouse when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I don't know if any of you have kids, but when you're in an acting class when you're 8 or 9 years old, it's probably not because you love acting. It's because like you're a weird kid and your parents are trying to help you make friends.
Right.
You know, there's like it's like a bunch of people who don't quite fit in. But all of a sudden, you know, the Muppets have this thing that they say, a bunch of weirdos make a family.
That's great.
And I felt very at home in acting class. And I also, I think, you know, meant to do something, I don't know. But I did find from a really young age that between the equivalent of action and cut, which is how I think of it now, but whatever that space is where you're doing acting, I was not afraid. I was like, felt very much myself. I felt like I understood the assignment in a way that I noticed the people around me were doing like kind of presentational acting, you know? And I just always felt like the job was different up there. It was like, how honest are you willing to be?
Well, even though, and it sounds like that feeling was there from the beginning, but there was, it seems like a period, maybe high school, when you were doing very well at other things, including you were part of the state championship basketball team and a lot of other other pursuits. But then acting comes back into the picture. And what to me, as I first learned about it, still it kind of blows me away, because had one little thing been different, we might not be sitting here today with a room full of people who know and love you and your work. Who knows where you'd be? Can you explain this crazy sequence of events that led to that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the man who this story is going to revolve around, his name is Ted Walsh, and he changed my life. He passed away last year. He was my high school acting coach. So I was playing basketball. I idolized, and I say past tense, like, I don't know if you heard it kind of trail off, because I still idolize my older brother. I just think he's the best. And my brother was a multi-sport athlete, just like a real like kind of alpha male, and I'm not really that. I don't know if you can tell. But I really aspired to be like him, so I started playing basketball, and I got pretty good at it. So I was also, though, like secretly doing shame acting at night. I would sneak away from the basketball team and go put on plays in this little black box theater that the school had. I was in acting classes, one of my electives. So this man, Ted Walsh, knew who I was, and he knew that I was kind of up to this. And he said to me, "Hey, you know, I think you're better at this than you realize. Why don't we put on a little performance of a play called The Zoo Story by Edward Albee, which is way too adult a play for a high school kid to be putting on. It's also, degree of difficulty is really high. There's like a 20-page monologue in it that I had to deliver, stuff I'd never done before, stuff I really shouldn't be able to do at that age, I look back, you know?
Right.
So anyway, we put on this play, just me and one other student. He got this like poor little kid. and he directed it. And it was just going to be 2 nights in this little theater. And a week later, after the performance, my parents sat me down and they said, well, you've got a decision to make. If you'd like to be in movies, there's some people who want to put you in movies. What he didn't tell me was that whole thing was a secret showcase that he had set up. And he had contacted every studio in Hollywood and said, I think I got a kid for you guys. And they sent, I'm emotional thinking about it, but they sent their casting directors out and watched me do this play, and my life was never the same after that. Like, my life changed because of that man.
So, that absolutely beautiful. That man and the woman from Paramount casting, right?
It was Deb Aquila. Deb Aquila is the one who came to the show, and she went and talked to my parents, and she set me up with an agent and a manager, and I did a couple silly movies first. I did a movie called Dead Man on Campus, and then I did a movie called Can't Hardly Wait. But then I did, my first real movie was called SLC Punk.
Yes.
I don't know, if you saw it, it's like a movie about the punk scene in Salt Lake City in 1985, and like the punkest thing I've ever done in my life. Do you know about this?
Please, please.
Okay, the punkest thing still is this is before everything was digitized. They could not hire a minor, and so I went to downtown LA, and I got a fake ID saying I was a grown-up. And I did that entire movie on a fake ID. I filled out all my tax forms and everything as a grown-up. Yeah, it was like that movie Big.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I am a grown-up. But anyway, so I did that movie, and then I met Judd. I got Freaks and Geeks when I was 19.
Well, there we go. So, but do you know, first of all, which of those projects or something else, what was it that put you on Judd's radar in the first place?
I cold auditioned for it.
You just came in.
Yeah, so that audition's on tape somewhere. But I read it. I was a little thrown off by the title at first when I got it because I thought it was like a Nickelodeon show, you know? Like now you've seen it, right. So it makes sense, you have an association. But when I got the script, it seemed like a Nickelodeon show. But I read it, and I thought it was really interesting. There was not two male characters. My character, Nick, and Daniel were one character. And so I went in, and are there kids in the audience?
It's okay.
Okay. Well, I was at an age where I was smoking a lot of pot. And the character was also a stoner, and yes. So I knew how to do that. And so I went in, I wore pajama pants, and like a black t-shirt, black band t-shirt. I'm a pretty smart guy, and I care about acting a lot, and I take it very seriously, and I prep really hard and all this stuff, but I didn't want them to know any of that. And so I was like playing real dumb. And they wanted to talk to me first at the beginning of an audition, and I remember saying, could we just talk after? And they said, okay. And then I did the audition, and it went really, really well. And then they called me back. I had never done a TV audition. They called me back for callbacks, and it was me and Franco were testing against each other.
Oh, God. For
one part. And they brought us both in, and in the old days, like, you go in, the other guy waits, and then they send you back, and then the other guy goes in. It's, like, super sadistic. And, I mean, it really is. You have to, like, look at the guy and stuff. So anyway, Franco and I are going up for the same part, and they kept us waiting after the auditions for a while. We're just sitting out there. And then they came out, and they said, we've decided that you're both cast. We're going to split this role into two parts. Congratulations. So then we walked to our cars together, and I remember I'm like trying to figure it out in my brain, and I turned to James and I said, well, maybe like we'll do it so I'm like the goofy one and you're the cool one. And he went, yeah. Like it was the most obvious thing that anyone had ever said.
Well, you're bringing him up leads me to just note for people who need a reminder that from Freaks and Geeks came, or at least were elevated the careers of Seth Rogen, Linda Cardellini, Martin Starr, Busy Phillips, on and on and on, plus, of course, you and Franco. And but one thing that I was wondering is, ever since Freaks and Geeks, which was short-lived, and we'll talk about that because that's something that many people, including myself, are still a little pissed off about.
Yeah.
But ever since then, I think there's been a perception that you are a comedy specialist. Did you think of yourself that way before Freaks and Geeks?
No, I didn't. I got plucked out of high school doing a drama, doing the Zoo Story. It's a really interesting question, and it comes down to, we could talk about Hollywood for a while, and we could also talk about what I think the nature of acting is. I think the same rules apply to drama and comedy. And I actually think comedy done the way I like to do it, the way that I have been mentored, is you're doing drama. You're doing drama with then a layer of comedy on top. Because, well, at least the kind of comedy that I do is people whose feelings are too big. So the feelings have to be real. I have never really responded to comedy that makes fun of people or comedy that is mean or dirty. It's not really what I like. I like somebody not knowing how to handle their feelings. Like my characters cry a lot. I've noticed like if my dad gets mad, like his body gets so weird. You know, people feeling things too big is really funny. So
maybe it's a Muppets thing.
yeah, it is. It is. There's a yeah. I think you're right. But no, I think of myself as someone who sees the world funny. Yep. But I don't know what you call broadcast news.
Right. There's all the James L. Brooks.
Yeah.
And Alexander Paynes and
yes.
people. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like Paul Giamatti. You watch Paul Giamatti act, and whether he's I don't know what you call that style of acting. To me, it's how honest are you willing to be on screen without trying too hard to show off. But if you watch Sideways, he sure takes it for a spin. You know, like when he gets mad, he gets too mad. And so I think that that's sort of how I've viewed all of it. But yes, I got swept up with an amazing comedic group, a comedic team, and the fact that you get your foot in the door in any way, you've achieved the impossible. I don't think that for anyone starting out, you really have that much luxury of choice. Not that I would have chosen anything different, but it's like, holy shit, it's happening.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh my gosh, it's happening.
Could you believe it? Could your parents believe it? I mean, I imagine that the plan was up until that showcase for the casting directors, you're going to go to college, or whatever you're going to do. Like, and by the way, what we should also note is, yeah, you got your foot in the door, but Freaks and Geeks was canceled after only 12 of its 18 episodes had aired, so one season. Then you go and Judd wants you back for Undeclared. That's another one that gets canceled after a season. So it's not like it was immediately going great. And I know that you then got into a kind of the way you described it, it was kind of almost like purgatory for a while.
Yeah, because I was too old to play a kid, too tall to play a kid, but too young to play like a doctor or a lawyer. And you're sort of in this weird liminal space. I really didn't consider other options besides creative options. I remember thinking like, well, if this doesn't work out, I guess I'll live with my parents forever. I never thought like, I'll go do a job.
Right.
But I think back on this time a lot. There's a part of, they say like, what would you tell young you? I actually think the opposite for me. Like, what should young me be telling grown-up me now? That guy had the naivete of youth. Just I didn't believe it wasn't going to work out. Mm-hmm. It was going to work out. And Judd had instilled this thing in us during Freaks and Geeks where he said, if you can improv the way that you can, then you can write. I just need to teach you how to write. I mean, this is another Ted Walsh. Yeah. This is another life-changing moment. And so he mentored us. He literally taught us how to write, and me, I can't speak for anyone else, and he said, if you can do this, you can always get back on the wheel. Like, they can't kick you off the wheel if you can write something good enough. And so I was just writing and writing and writing, and
it seemed, just sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to mention, because I remember you saying this in the past, that it wasn't just you'll be able to get back on the wheel, but it's that he knew already that you had an unusual sensibility, right? And that maybe other people weren't going to be able to capture that, but you could capture that in your own writing.
His exact words were, "You're a weird dude." Said, "Listen, Jace, you're a weird dude, and the only way you're going to make it is if you write your own material."
Yeah.
That was the direct quote. I will tell you a story about the Dracula musical later.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was toiling around right around season 1 of How I Met Your Mother, which I just got from an audition. We did Knocked Up, and they wouldn't let me be in 40-Year-Old Virgin. He tried to cast me in 40-Year-Old Virgin, and I didn't get approved by the studio. So I was actually starting to feel maybe a little scared. There was like a little chink in the armor, like, oh, Judd can't help me anymore. And then we did Knocked Up, and it did really well, and I guess I had tested well in my part. And
Your part was Jason.
My part as Jason, yeah. And I was actually playing my brother in that movie.
You were? Okay.
Yeah, I play my brother a lot. Anyway, Judd took me to a Laker game, and he said, "Hey, it's your at bat. Do you have any ideas?" And I had been writing on my own, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and thanks. And I pitched him lightly. I pitched him Forgetting Sarah Marshall. This is like a different era of movie making. The next day, contracts arrived from Universal for me to go write the script, and I went to Hawaii, and I rented a little house in Hawaii, and I wrote Forgetting Sarah Marshall in like 2 months, and then we made it, and then I was kind of off to the races.
Well, that period in Hawaii was, I think you've said, on the first hiatus after the first season of How I Met Your Mother. I don't want to gloss over the significance of you landing and the probably complicated feelings of landing a network sitcom lead, because that was a part of your life for the next decade. 9 seasons, 208 episodes, probably gives you certainly a totally different profile, financial security, all kinds of things, I would imagine. But you're also locked into playing a guy for a long, long time, and then having to decide during your hiatuses between that, which is only 4 months of the rest of the year, right?
4 months, yeah.
Like, how do you want to? Do you want to hang out at the beach, or do you want to create other opportunities for yourself, right?
This is it. Listen, it's like the best problem you could ever have, for sure. Especially when you're scared you might never work. But it actually, in practice, was a really tricky time. Because Forgetting Sarah Marshall did so well, all modesty aside, that all of a sudden you have this juice that you've dreamt of having where you can get a movie made, which is like a big deal, you know? And I also liked to write, and there was a lot of currency in my group of writing your own movies. It's like that showed that you meant business, you know what I mean? Right. So the way my life was for about 6 years was I would be shooting How I Met Your Mother, and during that time I would be writing a movie that we would then shoot on the 4 months off and get done in time to get back to How I Met Your Mother. And it was an amazing time. It was an electric time. But I also was getting a little tired, and I was starting to not enjoy myself so much. And that was a bummer because I was doing such cool things. But like the year I made the Muppets, I was shooting How I Met Your Mother during the days. The reason a lot of the Muppets takes place at night is that's the only time I could shoot. And so I was doing How I Met Your Mother during the day, Muppets at night, and then got done in time to shoot 5 Year Engagement that summer. And I wrote both those movies. Yes. So I was a tired dude.
I bet. Well, let's, if we can, just do a couple of questions on the projects that came out of those hiatuses. So, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, just to remind folks, Peter Bretter, guy who writes music for a CSI kind of show on which his girlfriend stars, but wants to be writing real music, but then gets dumped by his girlfriend. This was, as you say, the kind of breakout film project. Kind of a vulnerable character for you to take on because you've said there's quite a bit of yourself and your experiences in there, not least being the opening scene, which was surprising to a lot of people, including your own mother.
Yes.
Can you share?
There's a few things to unpack. So I was dumped while I was naked. That's how the idea of Forgetting Sarah Marshall started. In real life, I got dumped naked. I was dating a wonderful lady who's never done anything wrong to me ever, who I think the world of to this day.
Right.
And anyway, so she was away, and she got back in town. She called me from the airport and said, I need to come see you. And in my adolescent brain, I thought that meant like she wanted to, you know. And so, yep, get down. Yes, get down. So I thought it'd be really cute to be waiting in the Burt Reynolds pose, completely naked on the couch when she arrived. So she showed up at my condo, and she came in, and there I was, and I'm like, you know, in the pose, and I said, I got a surprise for you. And then she said, we need to talk. And nothing good comes after we need to talk. No. And so then she started dumping me. And the whole time, I'm like, this is the funniest thing that's ever happened to anybody. It's like what I'm thinking, I can barely hear what she says. And at one point, I kind of like come to, and I said, I need to get dressed. This part's not in the movie. We shot it, but it didn't make the movie because it was too long. I said, I need to get dressed. She said, yes, yes. So then I went back to my bedroom. Let me tell you, picking out an outfit for the second half of a breakup, it's like the hardest outfit you ever pick out. I'm like ripping stuff off the hangers and throwing them on the ground. And then I came out in a button-up blue shirt and khaki pants, like I was going to Episcopalian school. Right. And I said, I'm wearing your favorite outfit. I've never worn this outfit. I'm wearing your favorite outfit. And then she said, okay. And then she finished dumping me and left.
But you knew in the moment this is material.
All I was thinking the whole time. All I was thinking, and that says something, you know, like, and to be honest, that doesn't say something great, but it does say something that I've worked hard to correct because I want to enjoy my life. But I was thinking, I'm gonna write this as soon as she walks out the door. And so she walked out the door, and I started writing Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and I didn't quite know. It's really hard to pick someone's profession in a movie, you know? It's always like, whoa, he's like a kid scientist? You know what I mean? Like, it's always like kind of weird. But I had been writing in real life a Dracula puppet musical. And the last experience I had had with the Dracula puppet musical was I had written the song that I play for her in the bar, you know, on the piano. And when I wrote it, this is way prior to Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I thought, oh, this is like gonna change the world. Like, people are gonna really love this. So I burned it on a CDR, and I drove to Judd Apatow's house. I called him, and I said, Judd, I did it. And so we went over, and I sat down, I played it for him, and he listened, just kind of with his eyes closed. And then he said, you can't ever play this for anybody, ever. And so when I pitched him Sarah Marshall, I said, and it's gonna be, he's working on the Dracula puppet musical. And he was like, oh, fuck. And I had to fight really hard to end that movie with a lavish Dracula puppet musical. Well, but I did.
Yeah. When you take big swings like opening the movie that you wrote, Nude, or closing it with your Dracula musical, and then it is so well received, and I will just note, this movie was rave reviews, nearly $106 million worldwide, which is pretty impressive for any comedy, let alone an R-rated one. What do you, how gratifying is that when you get feedback that your quote-unquote weirdness is actually connecting with people?
Yeah, it was one of the, it's the most important, and any affirmation any of us get that we're not spinning our wheels is like the most important thing in the world, you know? Not just mine, like any pursuit anyone's doing that requires some sort of faith. Like the little nudges you get, like you're not crazy, are invaluable because, you know, look, for a long time you're the only person who believes. You're trying to do any of this stuff and you're achieving the impossible. can you imagine, I'm born in LA, thank goodness, if you have to go from your little town on a bus and like rip flyers off lampposts that say like audition tomorrow, like imagine the amount of faith it requires. So yeah, it was a really big deal. And to go back to like, what does little kid Jason have to teach big kid Jason? It's don't forget, the reason you're here is because you make the Dracula puppet musical. Right. Like it's really important, because what happens next, which is interesting if you want to do creative jobs, is you then become really strategic and savvy, and you find out about 4 quadrants and this and that, like all this stuff that, man, it's really compelling to understand it, but I don't think it's the basis of creativity. And it took me, I lost it for a while, and then it took me a long time to be like, Jason, let your freak flag fly. Actually, I had an ex-girl,
Yeah.
I had an ex-girlfriend who I care about very much, no, this is a good one, who's an artist, and she once said to me, you should never be taking a part that another actor could play. Let your freak flag fly, even if you have to be the one who writes it, but don't do anything where it could just as easily be this guy or this guy or this guy. And I think that's really true. It's not the path it's not what I have to offer.
Right.
You know, I got a weird, complicated brain, and I should use it. You know, it's gonna torture me half the time. I might as well use it, you know?
Get some mileage out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the hiatus after that, I would imagine, because it's, I think that mathematically that makes, the hiatus after would have been I Love You, Man?
Yeah, it's 2 things. It's I Love You, Man is what I'm shooting, but the next thing that happens is they say, what do you want to write next?
Okay.
And because I have some juice.
Yeah.
And I've just made a giant R-rated comedy.
Yep. Hit.
And so I say, The Muppets.
Okay.
And they're like, what are you talking about?
They literally thought you were joking at first.
Yeah,
right?
they thought I was joking.
Yeah.
They like, or that I was going to do it with some sort of irony, or it was going to be Dirty Muppets or something. And I was like, no, I want to make, this is my biggest influence. I want to make the Muppet movie. So that's when I started working on Muppets, and I shot I Love You, Man.
Which, just for the record, you've said, quote, I'm mostly a mix, in terms of people asking you, I guess, like, who are you most like of the characters you played? I don't know if this is still the case, but, quote, I'm mostly a mix of my characters from Sarah Marshall and I Love You, Man, close quote. Is that, how so?
Yeah, maybe at the time, there was something about that half of my brother is I Love You, Man. There's something about there's a little bit of like Jack Sparrow to Sidney Fife a little bit. You know, he's like a little loose with his stuff. But yeah, I'm a lot like Peter Bretter. I feel things a little more than I need to. Like that's what I've gathered from being around other people. Like, stuff matters to me.
Right.
But yeah, I try to figure out the way the character is like me. That's my first thing. Like, do you know what a mandala is, or mandala, depending on how you pronounce it? I don't. It's like central personality, and then surrounding it are its aspects. It looks like a clock. Okay. And each of the aspects has like a different part of your personality, you know? And so what I try to do is, like in regular life, I'm at the center, and these are all the aspects of my personality. And I think that what I try to do with the character is I figure out which one of the dials it is, and I move that to the center. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's all some sort of version of me, but I try to highlight, like, in the Venn diagram where me and this guy are similar, I try to really, really focus on that. Yeah. I mean, where that really comes into play is end of the tour, but
yes,
I think I've always had that approach, is like, don't try to be something you're not. Mm-hmm. That's not really what I do. I try to figure out, I have a spiritual belief and an artistic thesis that we are all very similar. That we have adopted some, like, external armor, but underneath it, which is like our personality, our outward-facing personality, but the way that we are feeling things, I believe, is probably pretty similar. And like, that guy winning the lottery feels just like that kid getting the bike he wanted for Christmas.
Right.
You know, it's like the base emotions are really similar. So I just try to figure out how are me and this guy the same?
Oh, that's interesting. So then, you know, just these may be chronologically, sometimes things get made and then take longer to come out or whatever. So the order might be off as far as when they were made. But 2010, you are the voice of Vector, the evil mastermind, and arch rival of Gru in Despicable Me. 2011, the same year that we had the Muppets movie, which I'll come back to in a moment, was also the year of Bad Teacher, with first time of 2 with you and Cameron Diaz. And then there was another one in there, which was my first awakening or awareness that there is a very different side of Jason Segel, the
Jeff
actor.
Who Lives at Home?
Jeff Who Lives at Home, which, for people who don't know, you're playing this guy, Jeff Tompkins, pothead slacker, living in his mom's basement. Susan Sarandon's his mom, who is only lured out to help his brother, played by Ed Helms, a very different sort of guy, spy on his wife who he thinks is cheating on him. Now, this is made by the Duplass brothers, Jay and Mark, who were already on the map as mumblecore, trailblazers, have gone on to many other things. And in fact, I think Jay, I believe, is going to be here today.
Oh, cool.
With another project. But I guess it feels like this was the beginning of a different phase of work for you. And I wondered, they said they cast you, Mark said of you, quote, "He has this thing that Chevy Chase had where you can watch this person do ridiculous, immature things, but you still like him and root for him, an endearing buffoonery," close quote. They also encourage improv. Now, you had done improv, but in comedies. This was veering more towards drama, this film. So anyway, this is a long-winded way of saying, please tell me about Jeff Who Lives at Home.
Sure. And we can also talk about dramatic improv, because I think it's really interesting. So around this time, something kind of strange is happening where I'm like really winning life on paper, but I'm not very happy. And it's a very scary thing, actually, because everyone's telling you, like, whoa, you did it, look at you go. And I'm like, but I don't feel very good, you know? And I think I started to realize at that point that I had no ethos around why I was doing any of it or what I was trying to accomplish or anything like that. I was a little lost in the wilderness. And like I said, it's, in fairness to myself with some retrospect, how are you supposed to know? You know, like I started when I was 19 years old. I didn't know anything about what it was going to be like, whatever. But I started to feel like, don't forget that you got seen doing dramas, and don't forget that you like really care about this stuff. And I was like increasingly making more and more movies. All those movies at the time were kind of about being scared of dating, you know? But I was like a 6'4" successful man doing really well in life. Like none of it felt like what I was thinking about. Mm-hmm. And so it's not really art at that point. It's almost like capitalizing on previous art. You know, it's like making increasingly less vital facsimiles of Forgetting Sarah Marshall. You know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
And I know, just to inject, and I don't want to break your flow, but you've said that kind of came to the final realization of that version of comedy with, I think, Sex Tape a little bit later. That was 2014, but... Yeah.
And I'm starting to notice it. I'm starting to notice, like, this isn't in line with what I'm thinking about. And I wanted to find out if I was good at this stuff, like I thought I was when I started. And so that was the first kind of putting my tiptoe into the waters of drama. And it was awesome, and I loved it, and they let me be weird. And... yes, I actually think that good improv is actually most effective in drama.
Really?
I do. I think that comedic improv is really cool, and you can really show off, and you can show that you're smart, and you have a quick brain, and all that stuff. But drama that services the plot and is about capturing something on film. Like we don't improv all that much on Shrinking, but at least when I improv on Shrinking, it's because Harrison Ford is looking at me different than I expected. You know what I mean? And I say, like, Paul, like, stop looking at me like that. And then you're in a weird little pocket of, it's still the scene, but this, like, you catch this really interesting little moment, you know? It's like, I think the script should be respected like a treasure map. The better the script is, the more detailed and well-drawn it is. But then when you get into the adventure, it's three-dimensional, and you're like, wait a minute, but nobody drew that little nook over there. I'm always very curious what's back there.
Yeah. Well, I guess in order to talk about the what we would call a high point and the beginning of a decade of kind of a rebirth in a way, we have to first note where that came from.
Yeah.
And so you have described it as what should have been the greatest moment of your life with the getting to make the Muppets, getting to literally, as you've said, dance down Hollywood Boulevard with the Muppets. I mean, this is stuff that most people, it's like it is out of a dream. And yet, the Man or Muppet, a song you perform in the Muppets movie, won the Best Original Song Oscar. I watched the clip again last night. You're beaming there like a proud dad. And yet, as you say, leading up to probably culminating with Sex Tape, not to pick on that movie, but just as the kind of realization that you weren't really personally or professionally satisfied. Is that fair to say? Like, that was the trajectory?
Yeah, there was a moment I remember, like anchor moments of your life, where we were shooting the Muppets. During this period, I also started drinking very heavily. I was so tired and I was unhappy, and I was trying not to think about that. I was drinking really heavily, and there's just a moment where I'm on Hollywood Boulevard. It's nighttime. We're singing a song. Life's a Happy Song is the name of it. The Muppets are dancing all around me. There's like thousands of extras. There happened to be, I mean, this is like cartoonish. There happened to be an exhibit for Jim Henson at LACMA. So there's all these like billboards on the lampposts of Jim Henson looking down at me. And the whole time I was thinking like, God, how am I going to write the sequel to this? And all of these thoughts that I was not present. Yeah, I was just not present in any of it during that period. I was just like, I hadn't figured it out yet, which is okay. I hadn't figured out life or my relationship to this job yet, or how to be happy, you know. That had been not something I had ever had a real reason to think about. My dreams came true on paper at like 18 years old, and so I was on the ride. And then How I Met Your Mother ended after 9 seasons, and the string of romantic comedies kind of came to a natural end, and I just had this blank space ahead of me. And I made a really conscious decision. I moved out of LA, stopped drinking booze, and I was like, I'm not doing anything that I'm not like, that's not reflective of what I'm thinking about right now. And the universe is so crazy. So then, like, a week later, this movie called The End of the Tour script arrived on my door. And The End of the Tour is not seen by many people, but it's a drama about David Foster Wallace, the writer, and I was tasked to play David Foster Wallace, and I had no idea if I was capable of doing it.
And not just playing David Foster Wallace, but this is the last days of his book tour promoting Infinite Jest, his masterpiece, most people would say. In 1996, being interviewed by Rolling Stone writer David Lipsky, a guy who kind of envies him, played by Jesse Eisenberg. And sorry, now back. I just want to make sure people, if they haven't seen it, they should. But,
I was wondering if I should say this next thing, which usually my rule is don't say it. It's like a smart thing I've learned over life, but I'm going to say it. So I took a meeting with the director they had offered me the part, and I said, I'm not the right person to play this part. Why are you offering me this part? Which is not something an actor normally says to a director when they've been offered a great leading part. David Foster Wallace, for those of you who don't know, committed suicide. He took his own life after writing The Book of a Generation, Infinite Jest. He just didn't make it. He was a complicated guy. And James Ponsoldt, who directed that movie, has become my creative partner. He directs Shrinking. And we're going to do another movie together this summer. We didn't know each other at the time. And he said, I want you because David Foster Wallace is funny, and I know you know how to be funny. And I also need somebody who is complicated and can lead up to where this movie leads up. And I want you to know that every time I watch you do comedy, I can see that you want to kill yourself. And I was like quiet for a little bit, and I was like, this is who I should be working with. Yeah. Like he gets it. He gets where I am at right now, and like it's safe in his hands. He wants to use this the right way, because I didn't know what to do with these feelings. And we did this movie, and I was so scared, and I worked so hard, and I prepped so hard, and when they said that's a wrap at the end of the last day of shooting, it was the first time where I was like, I did my job. I did my best, and that's going to have to be enough. I don't need to wait to see how the movie does. I don't need to wait to find out if people like it. This whole movie could be out of focus, but I did my best. And that was the beginning of a change for me of how I'm supposed to approach this stuff.
And that was clearly, first of all, it was terrific performance, terrific movie.
Thanks.
I will note that I think literally, didn't you go the day you finished How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
You went off to start on this. You were, at the time, because of the work that you were known for up to that point, there was a lot of online chatter from people who were skeptical that you could do this. And yet, in hindsight, let's just note, not that any one of these things necessarily would have mattered, but maybe it's the collection of it. You were the exact same age as Wallace was when he met Lipsky, 34. You were also a famous person and a best-selling writer, albeit of a different genre of material. You have also been frequently interviewed by journalists who are total strangers to you and pry about things. And maybe most pertinently, like David Foster Wallace, as you've alluded to, you were a guy who'd experienced great success but was still quite unhappy.
Yeah, but I think leading up to that, everyone's assumed I was very dopey. No, just in a stroke of self-awareness, like I was on How I Met Your Mother for 9 years. I went to Italy once, and How I Met Your Mother is very popular in Italy, but I'm dubbed. And so they've picked the stupidest guy in the world to do my voice. And I talked to this chef. I was having dinner, and the chef came, the guy from How I Met Your Mother's here. And we talked for like 20 minutes. I was just myself. And at the end of the conversation, he said, you not so stupid in person. So I think I understand why people were skeptical of me doing that part. I was skeptical of me doing that part. I think that you're in the glasses and the bandana, and I think that if it had gone wrong, it looks like a Saturday Night Live sketch, and it looks like a little kid actor trying to show he's a big boy, But
you really committed and worked your ass off. Can you share, right down to relocating and starting a book club in a town where you didn't know? It's pretty unbelievable.
Well, I played What Would Edward Norton Do? I had no system of prep whatsoever, but I knew that there were actors I admired. And so I just thought, what does somebody I admire do when they have a big part to do? And I did Fake It Till You Make It. And it's, funny enough, it's the same system of prep I do now for literally everything I do, because all I know is that it was so overkill. I wrote out the whole script by hand. I recorded every scene doing everybody's part, and I would just listen to it like a play as I would take these long meandering walks. Then I recorded the script again with doing everybody's lines, but leaving gaps for my own, so then I could run it for like a play. By the time I got to set, I had run this thing so much, and I knew it so much, and I had really thought about how me and David Foster Wallace are the same, and it goes, to what you wrote on the paper and beyond of like, how do we feel the same? That is what was most important to me. How do we feel the same? Because again, my artistic leap of faith is that there's 60% of the people in this room also feel those ways. And so if I can just figure out what the feeling is that I'm trying to talk about, then people are gonna care. And by the time I got there, I just was not afraid. And that's my big, like, sometimes I teach like young people my prep, because I think the goal is that when someone says action, you feel free. It's like surfing. The wave is in charge. You're not thinking about your footwork at that point. It's like, you better have figured that out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, $3.5 million movie with largely centered around these two guys talking to each other. As you say, could have gone very wrong, but goes to Sundance, has a premiere, and that was the beginning of this really amazing decade since of you, I think, being probably happier in your own life and more as successful as ever professionally. And you've certainly been more selective about, not to say that you weren't selective before, but like you don't work as much, I don't think.
For sure.
Right?
And it wasn't, it's really nice that is how it looks outward facing. It wasn't that successful a decade. What happens first is you say, I'm gonna do different stuff, look out world, and it turns out no one gives a shit. So, it's true, you know what I mean? You, again, it's just like what we were talking about. I was back to this position of I have to care the most, and I have to believe the most. So I have to be willing to not take offers where I'm the fat, funny friend, despite that you're starting to get scared. Like, oh, is it over? Is it over? I'm not going to take that. I'm still not going to take that. I'm still not going to take that. And you're getting scared and you're getting sweaty, and that's when I got that great advice from my partner at the time, like, let your freak flag fly. Around that time, I started only taking movies where I would be around somebody I admired so that I could ask them questions. And I was asking people a bunch of questions, and one of them I would ask is, what is art?
Can you give us a few examples of who the people were that you were asking?
Yeah, people like Rooney Mara, Jesse Eisenberg, Robert Redford, Chiwetel Ejiofor, all these people that, Casey Affleck, all these people that I was working with who I felt like were just really good at acting. And Chiwetel thought for a second when I said, what is art? I would also ask really reductive questions like, how long do you wait between projects? Do you think about the paycheck? All this stuff. Because I had no teacher, And then I asked, what is art? And Chiwetel said, art is performing an act of self-exploration on behalf of an audience. And I thought about it for a while, and I realized, like, right, this is what was missing in my 20s that I was feeling this longing for, that I am feeling satisfied about now, that I need to be going through something between action and cut, something real, like trying to figure something out. And that's why I'm doing any of this. This is a time in my life, too. It's not just like for the audience at the end of the day, like, why am I giving away year 37 to this movie? And it's for me to figure something out up there, and hopefully that'll be interesting. So it took a while to get there, and around 38 years old, I made a show called Dispatches from Elsewhere. I wrote 7 out of 10 of them, and it pulled me out. I hadn't written anything since Muppets. It pulled me out of this creative hole I was in, and then Winning Time and Shrinking came, and I was off to the races again.
Absolutely. All right, Shrinking. This comes out of, from what I understand, a weird situation where you've got Bill Lawrence and Brett Goldstein, who had collaborated on Ted Lasso very successfully, somehow discover that they're working on a similar kind of project and come come to you. Can you connect those dots a little bit?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's another story about how life is unfair. But the way this happened was apparently, Bill didn't tell me this, but the way shrinking really happened was I was in my little town. I live in Ojai. Do you guys know Ojai? Beautiful. Yeah. So I'm in Ojai. I take these long, meandering walks. I'm like kind of like the town mascot. Like I'm like Big Bird. I like wave at everybody. So I was walking through town, bopping around, and Bill's producing partner, Jeff Ingold, was on vacation with his family. I don't know any of these people. And apparently, he saw me from across the street and texted Bill, Jason Segel seems like a happy guy. Let's do a show with him.
Oh, my God.
So then Bill called me and lied and said, like, oh, I've been thinking about your work. And I But anyway, yeah, they had been thinking about a show together, and they came to me and said, do you want to like help us write the pilot and create the part? And I had just done Winning Time, which was like the start of this thing, but Shrinking really was like the end of an M. Night Shyamalan movie. For everything that we've been talking about, like when I went on my dramatic exploration, I had friends who really care about me who kept saying, like, don't forget, you're really good at comedy. Mm-hmm. But I had kind of like put it off to the side a little bit. You know, you swing pretty hard the other direction when you're trying to prove something to yourself. But they kept saying, like, don't forget, don't forget. And then Shrinking came along, and it was like suddenly it all made sense. I had this backpack full of tools where I knew how to do comedy and improv, and I knew how to write. But now I had acted across from Robert Redford and Casey and Chiwetel and Rooney and fucking John C. Reilly and Adrian Brody, all these people where all of a sudden I felt like I knew how to do drama too, and I wasn't afraid. And then I'm doing this show where some days you're going to go out there and do a big set comedy piece, and some days you're going to rip your guts out in front of your daughter and tell her why you're ashamed. And Harrison Ford is going to be there, and then so is Jessica Williams, and like you're going to be doing big comedy and big drama, and it's just like a dream come true.
Did you have any pause before saying yes to doing this?
I didn't, but I'll tell you something that's kind of interesting. When I was really scared after How I Met Your Mother, when no one was asking me to do acting, I would tell myself in the back of my mind, well, you could always be the dad on a sitcom. That was like how I comforted myself at night, you know? I didn't say it out loud.
Right.
But I would say, you could always be the dad on a sitcom. And it meant something very specific in my head. You know what I'm picturing. It's like Family Matters or something like that. Like, you could always do that. You probably got your talons in deep enough. But what's interesting about the you never know about life is, like, in that period, TV changed, and these words changed, and I grew up, and now I'm dad age. And Shrinking's kind of a sitcom. Sure. It means something different now, you know what I mean? It's single camera and all that, but it's a half-hour comedy, and I'm playing a dad on it, but it's the best job I've had.
Best version of it.
It's the fucking best version, not just of dad on a sitcom, it's the best job I've had, you know? It's
because it's, you like the people you're collaborating with, who you helped to choose as a co-creator of this, so like Harrison Ford, you were part of the recruitment process, right?
Yeah, that story's crazy. You offer Harrison Ford a part because you think he's going to say no, but for like 4 days you get to tell people you've offered Harrison Ford your show. That's why you offer Harrison Ford the thing.
Who I don't think had done really TV
He had
or
never
comedy.
done TV. He had never done TV. And then we get this thing back. I'm going to tell a not kid-friendly story, so just get ready. So then we get back that he would like to see some of my work. So we're like, oh, he's like a little interested. Yeah. So they sent him End of the Tour and Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And apparently the text we got back was, I'll take it. And tell the kid, great dick.
That's high praise.
Something
That's
else.
awesome. Well, you get this story together with these guys. You've got your cast in place. You've got Apple, a huge place behind you.
Yeah.
And you get ready to make and then put this thing out to the world. Was there any part of you, and I know we've talked about the fact that like James L. Brooks and Alexander Payne and these guys can make drama funny, but those are in essentially bite-sized form as movies. Like these are an hour and a half with characters, whatever. Was there any part of you that doubted that a show that's ostensibly about grief could sustain itself as an ongoing TV series for 10 whatever episodes per season for multiple seasons?
I mean, the honest answer is that I'm just not scared of creativity. I know that that's kind of a weird thing to say, but no, it never occurred to me that we wouldn't figure it out. Also, you know, I think I do the same thing in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which I acknowledge is a movie, like you said, but starting somebody at rock bottom is like a perfect place to start somebody because it's actually a very hopeful place. The only place to go from rock bottom is up. So if you start something on the happiest day of somebody's life, it's not going to go well. And if you start something with somebody at the lowest they can be, you get to watch this real journey of hope. I've pulled myself up out of rock bottom. I know what it looks like, and I know that it's clumsy and hopeful, and it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's like, I had no fear that there wasn't enough material or places to go. And I also was really excited because I had learned enough about my relationship to the audience that I knew you could push me into really dark places. Because in the pilot, I'm with sex workers while my daughter is asleep in the house,
right.
And I'm drunk and doing drugs, and I just knew that the audience would still be like, oh, I hope he's okay. And so I told them that at the beginning, like, what we should spend this currency. Like, let's spend it all. Push me as close to unlikable as we can, because I think that that's where the interesting stuff is going to be.
It's so interesting that you now, at this point of your career, have the understanding and self-awareness of that kind of power that, you know, you think about. I'm trying to think what the, like, darkest Jimmy Stewart ever got was within the confines of the censorship of the time. But, like,
some of that Hitchcock stuff, maybe.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. You still root for the guy because there's somehow the screen persona. Doesn't mean you can't do things very different, but it's underlying.
I think that if you are still really rooted in the I am you part of it, then people see themselves. And everyone has been in situations where they are less than lovable, less than likable, damaged, wish they had done things differently. So if you're playing a character, you can't bail on the character. If you are doing a portrayal of a character that you hate, the audience is going to hate them too. They're going to think, oh, they're bad. But if you're doing a character that you love, in spite of all these things, then people are going to think, oh, God, that's like the time I, did that thing I wish I hadn't done, slept with my friend's girlfriend, or didn't show up to my sister's wedding, you know?
Yeah. Last 2 things.
I didn't do either of those things.
For the record. I
did one of those things.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Last 2 things about
and my sister's not married.
You're working on this show opposite a lot of very talented people, and I want to give an equal shout out to Jessica Williams as one of your coworkers. But your other coworker is the man formerly known as, or still known, Han Solo, Indiana Jones, so many other things. What have you learned from spending an unusually large amount of time for a collaborator, because really, I guess, you know, the franchises, maybe people have gotten to work with him repeatedly, but you're doing a long time each year with Harrison Ford. What have you taken away from working with him?
Well, the first thing that Harrison Ford does is he does this really generous thing where he is aware at this point that there's going to be awe surrounding him, and he bursts right through it. And I don't know if it's like this on a movie with Harrison Ford, because he's been #1 on the call sheet for his whole career, and like having done that also, it's a different thing, a movie, you know? You're in your trailer more. Whereas a TV show, this becomes a family. And he just makes you feel like, it's the most generous thing, but he just makes you feel like his contemporary, like you belong. And gosh, when somebody like Harrison Ford makes you feel like you belong, it's impossible to feel like you've made any wrong turns in your career. You know, you're like, oh my gosh, here I am with Harrison Ford as my equal, and it is, I just feel like the luckiest guy all the time. He also really cares about the show. We all really, really care about the show. And I think that really, I think you can tell. I think you can feel it. Like, we all want to make sure that we're playing our part so that everybody thrives and succeeds. And yeah, man, it's great.
Okay, so these are the last two things for me. One about shrinking, one big picture.
Cool.
Then we're going to free you. But
Oh, yeah, I'm great.
thank you.
Yeah.
With shrinking, the first season, I guess you could loosely say, was about grief.
Yeah.
The second season, you could loosely say was about forgiveness.
That's right.
The first season, not that these things mean everything, but it's kind of noteworthy. 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a reflection of people thought it was really great. But hold your applause.
Wow.
Season 2, 97%. That is like very few shows equal that, and very few shows get better, I'm sorry to say, as they go along.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if there were things that you learned from season 1 that you applied to season 2 that you think made that better.
This is such an easy answer. We learned in season 1 that every one of those actors could be the lead in their own show. They're all so good. And so then you just start giving everybody fully realized arcs in season 2, and now you have a limitless material. So you asked the question earlier about, like, could a show about grief go on for X many episodes? All of a sudden, the show's no longer about grief. It's about the intertwining lives of this group of people. And there's just, like, infinite talent in that group. And everyone's different. You know, it's like an orchestra. Everyone's playing at a different instrument and maybe a different pace, but all, like, they combine. Like, Harrison Ford might be playing quarter time, like, but it all jives, you know?
Right. No, it's a great answer. Last question from me is about your outlook for the future. It's a bit of a multi-part question, but I feel like you may want to have it all to respond to at once. How long can you see shrinking going? Could you see yourself in terms of whether it's concurrent with shrinking or after shrinking? I was thinking about, like, the thing that got you started, as you said, was this 40-minute monologue or 40 from the Zeus story?
It's like 25 minutes. Depends how you milk it.
Right. But that makes me think one of the things that we haven't really gotten to see you do is, as far as I know, professional theater. I wondered if that holds any appeal for you. Just what, looking forward, is your outlook and sort of on your to-do list?
It's really funny you ask about the theater thing. I'll tell you in a second. I could do shrinking as long as we have interesting stories to tell, and I think it probably would require, like, reinvention at times just to make sure that you're not dragging it out. Because I learned in my 20s I'm not happy if I'm, like, repeating myself, and so. But that's probably a good lesson. That's probably good for the audience too. Like, don't just run it until everybody gets tired of it.
Right.
Keep, if you can figure out a way to keep it interesting, it should, for everybody, I go on as long as they want to. I'm gonna shoot a movie this summer that I wrote that is the first movie I've written in a long time. Ponsolt's gonna direct it, and it's a drama, and it's about stuff I really care about, and I'm scared of it, and I'm really excited about that. I would like to play a villain. I think that my whole career, one of the things I do is I like walk the line between charming and creepy, and then I always dip into charming at the end, but I'd like to dip into creepy. I think I'd be a good villain. I'd really like to do that. And then it is so funny you ask about theater because I just read an article in the LA Times that John Bernthal, who lives in my town, rejuvenated a theater to try to, bring theater to Ojai and to help the kids at the school. It's going to be donated to the school. It's like an amazing thing he's doing. And I wrote him last night, hey, next time you do the fundraiser next year, if both of our schedules are free, let's do the Zoo Story. It's the play I got discovered in.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you could pull a few strings and get me in when that.
Okay,
I
you got
no,
absolutely. I would love that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't thank you enough for this, and it is now my pleasure to welcome back the founder and executive director of the Napa Valley StreamFest, Farron DeWeese, to present Jason with some hardware.
Wow. Hey, thanks. That was awesome. Thank you guys very much. Hi.
Hi. All right, Jason. We have
Should I
the
stand
TV
up, or-
performance. Yeah.
Okay.
TV performance of the year for Shrinking.
Wow.
This is made by one of our artists here in town, Richard Von Saul.
Yes.
All material from Napa. We're so excited to have you here, and thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks to all you guys, and to Farron and Jules and Scott and the Hollywood Reporter and Apple and everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate it. Okay.
All right, let's keep it going for Scott and Jason. Thank you, guys.
We did it.
What a guy, huh? Just kind of want to hang out with him. Like, he's kind of cool, kind of nice. We like him. Thank you, guys. Okay, don't go anywhere. We have our Spotlight Tribute Award next up. Meredith Hagner. Roll the clip.